Greetings to Augies worldwide. I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign K7AJQ, and welcome to the Saturday 19th, 2019 live stream, where we will go over questions and latest channel news and so on. PacificCon is today. It's a big convention out on the Pacific coast in San Ramon, where they just had an earthquake a few days ago, and I guess they had another one more recently a little bit further south. I hope that everybody out there really enjoys it. I had intended to be there, but things didn't work out. It turns out some of the logistics fell apart at the last minute. Hello to Israel. Hello to far west Missouri. Lots of things going on. Actually, most swap meets for Hamfests are held on the multi-day Hamfests are usually on Sunday mornings. I know both Reno and Albuquerque were that way. And Australia there. Okay, and from Denver, far away Denver. Okay, we've got a few things going on here at K7AJQ's World Headquarters. I have an Step IR, I guess it's called Step IR antenna. It's a vertical called the Big IR. And it is here. The parts are here. And Augie Brad Rich is coming up from Alamogordo, New Mexico, to help me put it up on Monday. I've been inventorying parts and getting things ready. The old butternut HF9V is down and, for the moment, retired. It had stopped working, and I don't know if it's one of the capacitors went out, or it's just... The problem is it was so old that it would kind of creak in the wind and stuff, and you know, all the joints had worn, and it was a problem. So we'll see how that goes. That's going to go tomorrow. I've been putting up a number of minor little videos. I put 2 videos up on the RigPi. That's the MFJ1234. Got that to work and showed how that worked. I even had a QSO with it, although not in the video. I did have a QSO with it. It's a very, very flexible system. And the problem with very, very flexible systems is that you can put them together 7 ways from Sunday, and only a few of those actually work out. But I got it to work, so it works. It does what it says it does, and does it well. And considering what it does, it's a pretty good price for the machine. It basically allows you to connect your radio to the internet so that you can control it from anywhere. Hello, Mark Piran. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that very much. By the way, there is a super chat feature there. If you want to throw a couple bucks in the tip jar, you can just do it right there. I don't know why this month has been very slow for tips. I'm guessing, I don't know, October, people having to buy their Halloween candy, whatever it may be. I just appreciate that you're here and you're subscribing. We're growing subscribers at the rate of about 1,000 a month. I'm up in the 57,000 range right now. Well, let's, 50 meters is open. Oh, that'd be fun. If that's open, check 10 and 12 too, and 17. Okay, there were a few questions for today, and this first one is from David Henderson. Says Dave, and he is both VK2 KWY and KJ7HZY. He is in the UK, and he also has, not UK, Australia, and has a American call sign also. He says, a ham friend in the U.S. has offered to let me use and control his rig in the U.S. via his RigPi when he's away. He lives in Portland. Now the tricky bit, I understand that I would be the control operator, and as his transceiver is located in the U.S., the RF comes out in the U.S., I would expect that I would have to use a U.S. call. Yes. Yes. Either that or follow the reciprocal operating agreements. There are some countries that have reciprocal operating permits that don't require any prior permission. And you can come in and just operate as long as you put /W7 or something like that at the end of the call to indicate where you are physically. Now, if he were to allow a ham to operate the rig in Australia, I'm not exactly sure the status, but I think that operates that way too. Have to end with a /VK and make sure that it's where the transceiver is where the station is. So keep track of that. It is possible, of course, to separate the transmitter and receiver. You need a license to transmit. You don't need a license to receive, but it's best amateur practice that you identify just what you're doing and where you're doing it from. Rig pie looks way too complicated. Yeah. Did you get the rig pie to work wireless? No, I did not. They put it in a little metal case, so it's going to be kind of hard. You can get the 1234 SD, which only requires an SD and a Pi 3 for modern rigs. Yes, I didn't use any of the daughter boards. I used one of the USB ports for that with my FTDX 3000. Haven't used my ham license in years, but want to get it going again. Can you recommend a video that discusses how to set up handhelds to repeaters, uplink, downlink, and so on? Well, I've got a bunch in the Ask Dave. If you go look at my Ask Dave playlist, there's over 200 videos in there on everything under the sun. There are lots of other great videos. I know Randy K7AJQ has some excellent videos on operating 2 meters. Yeah, let's see. Fall foliage is at its peak in southern New Hampshire. I'll bet it's beautiful there. We're past our peak here. And it's sort of getting in the winter. It's 56 degrees Fahrenheit outside, which isn't bad. It's pleasant to walk around in a t-shirt. It comes out fine. Okay. This next question comes from Michael McFarlane, and he is K7AJQ. Says he lives in Las Vegas, but visiting my daughter in North Dakota, and would like to make contacts while visiting her there. How would I let contacts know I'm in a different region, especially doing the Morse code? What you do there, first of all, you don't have to make any changes to your identification. You just use your call sign. But if you wish, what you can do is say, this is W7AJQ portable 0. And that way people know that you're portable. You can say portable South Dakota, North Dakota, portable North Dakota, whatever. It's a kind of a courtesy to people to let them know that they're not getting some exotic propagation, but that you're fairly nearby. So that's all you have to do. Now, if you're doing this with CW, you would add a stroke or a virgule, which is da-da-da-da-dit. Da-da-da-da-dit. So you'd give your call sign, then da-da-da-da-dit, and then you'd put the call area that you're in. I think North Dakota is 0, so be da-da-da-da-da. Okay, and so that's how it's done on both CW and voice. This next one is from Randy Williamson K0TNG. Just follow up to email you regarding Ham Con 2020, which would be held in August 2020. The location is going to be in Parker, Colorado, and not Fort Collins or Keystone, as had been previously thought. They're looking for speakers. If you're interested, I can pass your info along to our coordinator. It's from Randy K0TNG. I'm going to set this aside so I can reply affirmatively. I spoke at the Duke City Ham Fest, which is the Albuquerque Ham Fest, and I didn't die. No one shot at me. No one threw anything. The presentation on SWR was much better attended than the presentation on YouTube. So I think I'll drop the YouTube thing, but I want to hone that presentation on SWR a little bit. I called it Fun with SWR. It's all kinds of things that you can do with the equations for SWR and fun things like that. And I'll volunteer to do something along those lines. Can I recommend a good desk mic? I want one for my 7300. The ICOM makes a desk mic that you might look at. Also, Heil Sound makes desk mics, I believe. That would be a good place to look too. You're going to find a desk mic will be expensive. You will also find that you get what you pay for. So if you get the ICOM mic, it'll fit right into your ICOM 7300. I use a headset, this right here. This is my headset. It's branded Tentec. And I've got a little adapter here that it works with the Yaesu FTDX 3000, which I'm soon going to change temporarily to an ICOM 7610. But I'm going to get this antenna up first. The thing with the headset is you need to do something for push to talk. I do not like Vox. A personal thing. I've never had good luck with it. So I use a foot switch for push to talk, and that works out really well. Okay. From Floyd Yancey, your amateur tech video list is out of sequence. You check a video link and come up with a prior video. Thank you for letting me know, Floyd. I appreciate that. And I will have my assistant fix that. By the way, I do have an assistant. Her name is Lauren Cook. And her big project right now is to get the general videos set up. I'll do a special video on the general videos when I get ready for that. The general videos, most of them carry right over, even from 8 years ago. But there's some in sections 4 and 6 that need to be made new. So I will make those brand new videos. They'll be scripted. They'll have the diagrams and everything, so they'll be high quality videos. And when I get all of them done, I'll offer a thumb drive with the general videos on. I've got a price in mind, but I don't know if I can fit all of the videos. It would require fitting them on a 32 gigabyte thumb drive. If I can't do that, I've got to go to the 64, which means I'd have to charge the same price as the extra videos, which don't fit on a 32. They fit on a 64. By the way, in my camera, I've got a Panasonic G7, which is my primary camera for YouTube. Not using it now. I'm using webcams for this. But I had a card go bad in there. The little card that the memory card. They do go bad. There is a wear-out mechanism for them, and I guess I have had it a couple of years. But the thing was slower than molasses on a January morning, and it would take an hour or two to get a video off, something that should have come off in just seconds. So I went down to Office Depot, and sure enough, they had it was an upgrade from the card that I used to have. Had to pay $48 for it, though. I mean, this is a high-end card. It records UHD and all of that sort of thing like that. But I needed it, so there it is. And your support, your financial support, is essential for me to be able to do things like that. And I just can't tell you how much I appreciate the support that I get in all different ways from all of you out there. Perhaps your assistant could look at the big list of issues I sent with your Ask Dave playlist. Yes, I did. And I need to have her do that. I'm trying very hard to get her up to date. She is learning as she is going. And so we're going to get the general squared away. We'll get all the texts and stuff squared away, all the playlists squared away, and so on. Let's see, it's the Pro 7 for an ICOM radio. And have you checked the Heil website for recommended settings? Yeah, please do, because you have the ability in the newer radios to modify your audio output. You can change filter settings in there to emphasize mids or emphasize highs and so on. And you'll want to look at the recommended settings in there for different mics. There's a whole piece of auxiliary software for the FTDX 3000 that sets those. And there's no mention of it in the manual. I stumbled across it. I've written all the settings down, and I usually get excellent audio reports on that. First HF rig is on the way. Now I've got to do antenna research. Well, I can help you start with a 40-meter dipole. I just put one up a few videos ago, so that ought to give you a hint. By the way, you're going to find the most activity on 40, so don't do a 10 or a 12 or something like that. They're small and cool and all that, but the bands aren't open. 40's open, 20 during the day. This one is from Dave Matuzek, W1LOG. I haven't seen you talk about this yet, but I'm curious about those very long wave bands of 2.2 kilometers and 630 meters. I don't really have much intention of ever using them because I'd imagine the antennas are just massive. But what's the deal with them? Who uses them? And what do I have to say about them? The shipping industry moved away from using long wave for distress communications. Everything is satellite now. So the whole long wave region was kind of up for grabs. And they set aside a couple small slices at 630 meters and 2200 meters for amateur radio operators. The effective isotropic radiated power is limited to 1 watt, which is not much, but the antennas are so inefficient. I mean, unless you have an antenna, let's see, a quarter wavelength for 2200 would be what, 600 meters high, 1800 feet high. If you've got an antenna that big, go for it. But most of the time people have to use rather strange contraptions to get any power out at all. And the antennas are so inefficient, you can pump 100 watts in and get just 1 watt of radiated power. Most people are using them for whisper or FT8 or something like that, not using them for voice. They're very, very narrow bands. Let's see. What do you recommend as a beginner station beside the Yaesu 450D? Is there anything better with a similar price? The 450D is a nice radio. Everybody I've talked to who has one really likes them. Now, the ICOM 7300 is sold as a beginner's radio. I don't agree that it's a beginner's radio, but it's like if you buy a fancy camera, it always has a point and shoot mode. And I use my G7 a lot in the point and shoot mode. It's point, shoot, and let the intelligence in it figure out what it should do. And then when I do the videos in the studio, I'm very much manual, even manual focus. So the 7300 is a Nice little radio. Yaesu has several small radios. They've got the FT991A, which they're kind of advertising as their beginner radio. Kenwood's still got the 590. There are lots of good radios out there. You'll find the 450 probably the fullest featured for the price, which isn't very much. But you may want to just skip and go like to a 7300 or something like that. Office Depot, even Walmart are not always bargains, but when you need it now, you need it. Yes, that's where I went yesterday for my new card. Okay, so that talks a little bit about the long wave bands. They're quite experimental. There are people experimenting on them. That's great. This one is from Claud Treber, and he is FS5GL. So he's somehow French. I don't know where FS is. I said, Dave, thanks for doing what you're doing. I need help with a MFJ 495 gearbox. Well, let's just flip up here to the top screen. Okay, and we'll look up here, MFJ Enterprises. And it's a 495, MFJ 495. Okay. Did I type that wrong? I typed it wrong. Okay. 5. Memory keyer, keyboard. Okay. QRSS is very slow speed, which is used for experimental reasons, including on those new features. There's an iambic keyer in there, lots of messages. And he said something about a reader. I will tell you that readers, automatic readers on Morse code aren't very good. They just aren't. Morse code is very difficult to machine decode. If you have very good code, the machine can do it. But otherwise, you need your wetware between the ears here to decode it. It was originally designed to be printed, and operators would recognize the characters, and then people discovered they could make sense of the clackety-clack sound of the make and break on the sounder. But Morse code was never designed for machine decoding. I did my master's thesis on machine decoding of Morse and discovered how difficult a problem it is. Let's see. So, Claude has hooked up the bencher paddle. It works like a charm, but the manual doesn't help with connecting procedures with the different rigs and types of wires to use and where to hook it up, especially if I want to use the decoder. Well, if you want to use the decoder, you're going to have to get some audio into the thing somehow. And there would be a separate line for that. Excuse me. By the way, I did talk to the doctor and finally get I think, an acceptable diagnosis. It's just chronic asthma. So, oh wow. I had a cold that just wouldn't go away, so they gave me prednisone, and after 5 or 6 days of that, the cold went away. It's just a little bit hanging on. And I appreciate all of you who've expressed concern about that. Hello, Gray. Thank you very much for your support. Very much appreciated. FS of St. Martin. Okay, thank you. All right, and Arthur in Oregon is studying for his tech license. Dave, what keeps you going in the hobby? Well, to be interested to tell you what, I don't know, different, I'm a scientist, I'm an engineer, okay, and I've dug into the equations behind an awful lot of things. and I know how all that works out and so on. But to me, it's just magic. The fact that you can use waves you can't see to communicate around the world, to me, is just amazing. I love meeting the new people. I love meeting the people I meet on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel started strictly as an aside, an aid to a class I was teaching, and it has grown from there to a community of 55,000 doggies who seem to enjoy what I do. So I really appreciate you guys. I love this time of week most because I'm getting direct feedback from you. FT8. Well, SSB, if you go up in the... If you can get any digital mode working, you can get FT8 working. There's also a JS8 that's a little bit more conversational that I want to try. I haven't done that yet. FL Digi on my PC works well for decoding CW. Well, that's because the contest stations are using keyboard keys. If Morse code is immaculately sent, it can be received by machine. But if it's sent by hand, it's not immaculately sent, and so on. Another problem people have with keyers is they'll start a new character too soon, and it overlaps with the old one. And you can pick that out with your ear, but machines have a hard time with it. They're looking for the requisite 3 dashes between words and stuff like that. I know I've decoded contests because people are using contest keyers. My FTDX 3000 has a feature in the keyer that will not let you start the next letter too soon. It'll hold it, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. It makes it go. Got a nebulizer treatment. Welcome to my world. Well, I've got my little inhaler is always with me wherever I go. Okay. And now this is actually the last new one from this week. I'm writing to see if you have produced a great video in the digital settings for the A15991A. No, I haven't. I don't have that radio, but it is one of those that has a built-in sound card. So you need the Yaesu driver, which actually installs 2 COM ports, an ordinary and an enhanced. And the enhanced COM port is the one that you tell your WSJTX or FL Digi or whatever to use. And I think you can probably get it working pretty quickly with that. Let's see, and so that was from Leslie Wilson, KJ7EAT. He wants to get on the air with all of these various things like WinLink and so on. By the way, SCG, which kind of owns the Pactor field, hello Cinderblue, thank you, is coming out with some software that you can use with a sound card to at least decode PSK2 and PSK, not PSK, Pactor 2, Pactor 3. Now, if you've got the old AEA box, it'll do Pactor 1. Pactor 1, when in its heyday, was a lot of fun because it was pretty error resistant and was fast, and you could get good throughput, both upper and lower case. It was just very nice. Yeah, I know, Bell Labs, you know, the human speech problem, if you get something like Nuance, Naturally Speaking, the Dragon stuff, and you train it to your way of speaking, it actually can become very good. And most medical records these days are digitally, well, they're spoken. The radiologist will talk into something, and then that'll get written down, and then somebody reviews it, and off it goes. And so for certain specialized fields, it's there. I had to use it for a while on my last computer, and I've got it somewhere in there. And then I was better, but now my tremor in my right hand is coming back again. So I may need to put that on this machine so that I can write scripts and things like that. It's kind of embarrassing. I can't read my own handwriting, which is why I've got the typewriter sitting over here so I can type notes to myself that I can actually read. Yes, a speech is not fully a solved problem, but it's getting much better. Okay, here's Scott Paluth, who says he's heavily into digital modes with your 991. If you could communicate with, who was it was having trouble with the 991? If you just put your call sign there, then they can contact you through QRZ. Don asked me, have I attempted contact with VP6R? No, I have not. What's a good DMR radio? There are lots of good DMR radios. The one that I think I've been pushing recently is the Anytone D878UV. And you can get that in the U.S. from Bridgecom Systems. And Bridgecom Systems will support it out of the U.S. And they've got lots of training videos and things like that. So I would recommend that radio through Bridgecom Systems. Thank you, Don, and thank you for the kind words about the SWR. I appreciate it. Actually, there's some things I want to do to improve that. I thought of some additional fun things to do. Okay, this is from Max Mongreif KZ8MAX. I recently got my general class license and set up my shack. I have an ICOM 7300, very common, very nice radio. I was very excited about the one I tested. Installed this antenna system, and he's got a YouTube thing there. After I plugged everything in on Sunday morning, couldn't get anything on any band. Wondering if it's just nothing is going on or something is wrong. We are at the bottom of the sunspot cycle, and it is very possible that the HF bands can be kind of blank. Tune around in the late afternoon, early evening on 40 meters and 20, and weekends especially, and you have a much better chance of finding people. But I recommend 40 and 20 as bands to work on. The bands above that you won't see open. Oh, somebody said 15 was open today. And see what you can do with it. I'm using the antenna tuner, so hopefully everything is okay there. The radio has an antenna tuner built in that will go up to 3-to-1. Don't use both your radio's antenna tuner and an external antenna tuner. Use one or the other, but not both. Okay, putting the antenna in the attic was a nightmare. Oh, I can imagine. If there's some way you can put up a thin wire, a long wire from, somewhere on your roof to somewhere in the backyard that won't attract attention, you might try loading that up. That could really help. Okay. This is greetings from Turkey. This is an organization in Turkey for new hams. Turkey is very much in the news these days. But there's ham radio in Turkey. And he has an organization, the TA4MSO from Antalya Ham Radio Club, located in Antalya, Turkey. Our average age is 35. And day by day, we are decreasing the average. 2 months ago, we've developed an award system called TADMC. It is unique in our country. While enjoying our hobby, also we are trying to introduce ham radio to youth. We see this hobby as a research and development act Most of hams don't even know about HF in our country. We're trying to encourage them to be on the air in HF bands as well. Regularly, we are having small groups of introduction to this hobby. We are giving education before license exams. I have been inspired about ham radio from your videos, and I have told you a lot in my country. Thanks for all the things you've done for educating people. We're doing the same locally here in our country. We have a small request. If you accept, we would be glad for supporting us. We kindly ask you to support us by telling hams about our digital mode club, TADMC. Also, we would like to see you join us. Thanks in advance and best regards from Muhammad TA4MSO. Well, very good. We've got ham radio in Turkey, and that's their digital mode club there. You can look that up on the internet and log in and see what they have. And I'm glad to see that happening. People abroad are having much better luck bringing youth into ham radio than we are here in the U.S. They've come up with some very good ideas on how to do that. This is from KF4HR. That's right. I was aware HF signals do get received at many different and constantly changing polarization angles, but I wasn't aware all waves bouncing off the ionosphere become circularly polarized. It seems if that's the case, a linear polarized HF antenna, such as a flat dipole, would experience nonstop QSB as the polarization angles match up, then miss a match, then match again. Now, a little bit of a misconception about polarization. Circular polarization is when the angle of polarization goes all the way 360 in one wavelength. Okay, so it's not a gradual shift or anything like that. It's one revolution per wavelength. So when your signal hits the ionosphere, it goes off actually in two different directions. One right-hand circular polarized, one left-hand circular polarized. And who receives your signal depends on which one. A dipole can receive a circular polarized signal with 3 dB of loss. A vertical will receive a circularly polarized signal with 3 dB of loss. If you create a circularly polarized HF antenna, which you do with two crossed dipoles and a 90-degree phase shift between them, and you have to flip the phase shift to get right hand versus left hand, then you can actually receive the circularly polarized wave with circular polarization. So something to play with. That's a pretty advanced understanding of propagation, but your regular antennas are doing just fine. Let's see. 40-meter delta loop tunes on 2015, 12, and 10. Does not tune on 40, but I'm going to leave it alone. It's very quiet compared to my vertical. Yes. Good evening from Denmark. Hello, Dan. Working scouts in the air. How far out of tune is 40 meters? Oh, yeah. 40-meter delta loop should tune on 40. Now, the delta loop, I'm trying to think, is pretty wideband antenna. I mean, if you've got it tuned to the center of the band, you should probably get the whole band. Okay, this one is from Martin Clancy. No call sign. I have a question about capacitance loading. Now listen to these statistics. Having an antenna with the following characteristics: 248 meters tall. That's 750 feet. Long wave frequency, yes, I would guess so. The top stays with no insulators, outer stays go to earth. The mast sits on an insulator. I've actually seen and been up close to an antenna like this, the glass insulator is a huge ball that the thing rests on. It's a broadcast antenna. And you want to load this thing. You can load it. It will work. You attach ground to ground, and then you've got either a loading coil or loading capacitor. You probably need a loading capacitor because the antenna is going to be very inductive for being that long. Very inductive. So you'll have a capacitor in there for the loading. Make sure it can handle the voltage. Okay. And you'll put the capacitor, and then you'll run a wire up that antenna 30, 40, 50 feet and attach it to the tower, and then adjust it with that capacitor down there. You ought to be able to load that antenna on any frequency, but you're going to have to be very persistent to do that. Let's see. Mark Waldrop says Jabra headset uses 7300, not expensive and works well. About 300-foot range, so it's wireless. Okay, heard a QSO on 20 from some scouts in Wisconsin, talking with some Girl Scouts in Saskatchewan. Yes, it is magic. I agree with that. Okay. Yeah, when I was in the Air Force, our ham club was given an antenna. It was an ILS antenna, low frequency beacon, and it was being removed from service. And we were told we could have the antenna. The only catch was we had to go get it. And I wish video had been far more common in those days. What a Keystone Cops routine. We finally had to let the thing fall over. And when that hit the ground, man, everything jumped. But we were able to salvage about 40 or 50 feet of it. The rest of it was just a tangled mess. And we used that as the tower for our station. It was big. And we had a wide-spaced 5-element 20-meter beam up on top of it. Because, I mean, this was major hairy tower. And I remember talking barefoot 100 watts from Mississippi to somebody in Oregon who absolutely did not believe that I was really where I said I was because the signal was too strong. Well, with the 5-element wide-spaced beam way up at the top of the tower, yeah, you can put out a massive signal, which we did. Okay, this is from Phil Purcell, NB3UUL. Really enjoy your videos. Had my tech for approximately 9 years. Live in a community with an HOA, so antenna fun. Planning on installing an N-fed half-wave 40 through 10 by my antennas. Yes, that should work. I am wondering what hardware I should use and how I should attach antenna ends to the flagpole and to the house. Well, if it were me, it'd be rope and duct tape, but you probably want to do a little bit better than that. If you I don't know whether you live in the country or the city, but if you go to some place like Tractor Supply or Murdoch's or something like that, you can get electric fence insulators that will work well as insulators. I recommend that at the end of if you're going to end it at the flagpole, put the insulator in there to hook the wire to the rope and have at least 3 feet of rope between the end of the wire and the flagpole. I did some modeling once where I looked at how far apart you needed to be from a metal mast to keep the metal mast from becoming part of the antenna. And if you hook it right there, even though it's insulated, that mast is going to want to become part of the antenna. But 3 feet seems to do the job, 1 meter. Okay, so I hope that helps. People here talking about an antenna. If you're on a daily net on H, can you enter everyone in your logbook? You don't have to enter anyone into your logbook. The N3 FJP software actually offers a module that goes with its all contact log for logging nets. It's really designed for the net control station to log. But you can log all of the different people who are in the nets. Then when you upload that to Logbook of the World, everybody's there, whatever. But very often those are not logged. Okay. Yeah, 141 feet, 41 Ballon. Oh, congratulations to Dog Paw. He passed both his general and extra test this morning. Congratulations to you. And I hope to see you on the air soon. Very good job. Are there charts which compare S unit readings to the dB readings we obtain on FT8 digital? Yes. And I'm trying to remember the dBm equivalent of S9. I think it's minus 63 dBm, but don't quote me on that. I'll have to look. I did that once for a video. It used to be, back in the old days, that 50 microvolts at the antenna terminal was S9. Okay? Now, receiver impedances back then varied widely. And with tubes, the impedance didn't matter so much because they were actually voltage driven. The current didn't matter. Okay? They were voltage driven, so they used 50 microvolts at the antenna. It was S9. Now, if you assume a modern radio, 50 ohms, and 50 microvolts for S9, okay, you can figure out the current and multiply the current times the voltage and get the power, convert that to dBm, and you'll have that. And then you'll have a chart. I did a chart like that once. I wonder if I still have it. Have to take a look at it. And MG tow is now extra as of today. By the way, that should be /AE. Okay. And let's see. What do you know about a ham sphere? I don't. I'm sorry. The delta doesn't tune on 40. It's 6 to 1 on 40. It should tune on 40. I'm guessing it's too short. Let's see. This is from Niclolaus G Southward KE5D. If amateurs can only use radios that only transmit on amateur frequencies, how do we fulfill the 97.403 part about safety of life of property if we cannot contact another amateur and have to go any station that can hear us? There's a little bit of misunderstanding of what's going on here. It is true that in a life or death emergency, and by golly, it better pass muster as a life or death emergency. Having a body count is one way to make sure that you pass muster. A true life or death emergency, you can use any means to contact for support. That's extremely rare. Amateurs transmit on amateur bands. If the only thing that would be going on here is, for example, suppose you are at a situation, and this has happened, where you go by a traffic stop and somebody shoots the cop that's there and drives off. You can stop, use the cop's radio to summon help. That's perfectly legal. You don't even have to be a ham to do that. We do not have an obligation of any kind under Part 97 to maintain capability to talk out of band. And normally the idea is we would talk with other amateurs who would then get on the phone and do things like that. So if we can't contact another amateur, you're probably not going to get anybody else because mostly you only have hams on the frequency. It's not a really satisfactory answer, is it? But it's an answer. Is Dave too short? How much better are the tabletop receivers like the Drake R8 compared to today's portable receivers? In contrast, how do they compare to an RSP1A SDR receiver? Well, the Drake R8 is a very nice shortwave listeners receiver. Very nice. And it would be better than some of the tabletops like the Sangean or even the Sonys. Although those are popular. Thank you, Optical Man. Jeff, appreciate it very much. Now, the RSP1A is called a radio signal processor. It looks at 10 megahertz of bandwidth at a time. And then you can run receivers within the software that will actually pick out signals to receive them. It is an entirely different principle. You can receive multiple signals at the same time through the RSP1A. You get a marvelous, truly marvelous band scope with the thing. And you can see what's going on. If you're interested in shortwave listening, for example, you can look at the whole 49 meter band and see what's where and just go around and pick on signals and see what they have to say and then maybe settle on something you want to listen to. Whereas the R8, being a traditional narrowband receiver, you have to twirl the dial searching for this, searching for that, and you don't really know what is up there. This is from Bruce Low KM4RNS. Like me, he is a Mormon and wants to know if there's a net on HF for LDS. There used to be something, I don't know if it's still around, called the Mercury Amateur Radio Association. I think they may have disappeared by now. They had nationwide nets, but says our Ocala, Florida stake is trying to organize emergency communications church-wide. I don't know why you would be doing that, because if the church wanted them church-wide, it would organize them church-wide. Now, when I was in Denver doing the emergency communications for the church, they wanted to roll it out to the whole Denver area. And the training nets that I started back there are still going on. So, and you ought to look at the way the church is structured for getting emergency messages up so that the Bishop Storehouse supplies and so on can be released where they are needed. The church works very closely with the American Red Cross on releasing supplies. This is from Tom Koziol, KD9KSR. Dave, love your videos. I really appreciate your sharing. Would like to return the favor. I believe I know what's causing your breathing problem. Oh, as well as the solution. Personally, have had my own breathing back to normal on a regular basis. What I am doing long term for my breathing problem is I am exercising and I am dieting. I have lost about 25 pounds this year, and about 40 more to go to get down to a decent weight, and I am exercising, so it's helping. But I've got the chronic asthma in my lungs, and I'm taking medications for it, so I'm happy with the treatment for right now. I do wish it would go away. Dave, how do you like flex radios like the 6600? They're great radios. I think I would want one with the front panel on it, rather than try to operate it just through the computer. They're very high-end radios, very high-end. Says, I have aerial utility power in front of the house. How far from these utility do I need to string a horizontal dipole in the backyard to minimize interference on HF? Well, kind of as far away as you can get. And if the power lines run this way, I would try and run the dipole cattywampus to that if you can. That might help you with noise pickup. Yes, with the RSP1A, you can record a whole segment of spectrum and replay it. Never owned a tabletop radio. All the good portables in the RSP1A, just want to know if I'm losing out by not having a tabletop. I don't think so. You can do such amazing things with that RSP1A. You might want to put nice speakers on your computer, because some of the shortwave stations go to great lengths to broadcast higher quality audio. Real good. I'm feeling good. Should be far enough away so no, yeah, you don't want it anywhere near where it can contact. Kyle's got to go. Very good to talk with you today, Kyle. Great radios have a great price. Yes, they do. This is from J. Lance KB3FL Need. I just purchased a TYT UV8000E to set up and test for use with our Silverton, Colorado Search and Rescue and Ambulance Association, which is just the other side of the hill. Now, this is an FM only. It's not a DMR radio. If it can help extend our backcountry range, so I hope it will, we'll be buying several to replace the older Baofeng units we have. I have several other mobile rigs that I've been able to set up and program successfully, but this radio has me totally frustrated. Use chirp. I'm trying to remember. No, you may have to use the let's see, TYT. Look on TYT's webpage for the programming software. Can't even get it to change to frequency mode. Please let me know what you would charge to help me get these things programmed correctly. Not really in that business, but the county communications director in Uray County is Randy Kessingham. So contact him, and he can help you. He does programming of radios for Uray County. That's the county just to the north of San Juan County, which is where Silverton is. David Butchko, AC8SI, says, wondering if you have ever done an episode on testing a receiver's sensitivity. Is this something that the average ham can accomplish, or do you require expensive test gear? I have never done anything to quantitatively test it. I have a signal generator, but I don't think it goes low enough, reliably enough, that I could test the input on a radio. I need very, very high quality cables and a very high quality attenuator to do that. They test these things at the ARRL lab, and they do use specialized equipment to do that. This one has to do with VOACAP. Would you please direct me to some reference that will help me interpret the VOACAP data given below, or if you have covered this topic, may I trouble you to send me a link? VOACAP has a website. Just look up VOACAP. I think it's .com. VOACAP. VOA is Voice of America. The CAP has to do with the analysis of the propagation. And it's probably the best propagation analyzer out there. Let's see, this is from Greg Smith, W0GAS. I knew N0GAS, but she has passed away. Great to meet you in Albuquerque. Have an issue of RF in the shack. When I transmit, I get feedback through my relatively inexpensive computer speakers. So do I. And so they're off most of the time. Shack is second floor walkout. Oh, this is the one I said, do you run your antenna leads down to lightning arresters at your ground rod? I recommend strongly that you run your antenna wires down to where your ground rod is and have lightning arresters down there attached to the ground rod. Okay, and then from there, your wires can come in the house and go wherever your Radio Shack is. But you want that point down there, and that'll really help you get rid of a lot of noise and help with a lot of things here. This is from Sanjeev. Hello, Dave. I'm a shortwave listener and love listening to the local 2-meter amateur band. I have an RTL SDR connected to a Slim Jim antenna, which I built using a 10mm aluminum tube. I have an issue. I see that the RF noise level increases right after 6 to 7 p.m. and comes back to normal in the morning, which is really annoying. Tracking down noise is a real issue. I have just two 2 left, so let me finish these. Tracking down noise is a real issue. When the noise level goes up, see if you can find out what gets turned on about the same time. Sounds like the people are, let's see. Somebody's getting a little far out. We need to stop this business about whoever Lewis is. Yeah. Okay, this one is from Srinivas Reddy. Log my QSOs on qrzed. Using a DMR, I'm confused as to which mode to select on qrzed, which does not list DMR. Only has D-star in a mode. You'll have to contact qrzed. I don't know. How to confirm the QSO on the logbook of qrzed. Despite matching the UTC time, the QSO and frequency, the logbook does not confirm. I'm sorry, you're going to have to contact qrzed. I don't use their logbook. I don't know. Suggested power level for FT8 on an ICOM 7300 question. Bottom line, I suggest 25 watts. You might do better with less. FT8 is 100% duty cycle mode, and you don't want to overload the finals. Turn up the audio gain until the ALC budges just a bit, and then drop it to just below that. That will keep it as linear as you can. It is a frequency shift keying mode, so a little bit of distortion isn't bad, but there. So there we go. Wow. All right. Look what we've got. Let's see. Alex has had his general license for 2 years. Not yet been able to talk to anyone. Have a end-fed random wire about 130 feet long and a loop antenna. You need a tuner for that end-fed wire. I'm assuming that you can make it work. There is someone here. It is not normal to do this, but I'm just now. This is, I think, the second time I've done this. Banned a user from the channel. Sorry about that. Sorry about everything he put up there. Okay, so the big day coming up Monday, putting up the antenna. I should have video on that, and really looking forward to getting that thing up and seeing how well it works. This is my first really major antenna project because it's a major antenna to put up. And Brad Rich is coming up to help me do that. He has one, and so he's got experience on how to do it. It's coming all the way from Alamogordo, New Mexico. So we'll see him tomorrow evening, and we'll see all of you next week. Again, thank you so much. Thank you especially to those of you who used Super Chat, and thank you to all supporters, subscribers, people who like the channel, and so on. And do leave comments. Do leave comments, because that's how I get the feedback. That's how I find out how well I'm hitting the mark there. So I'm going to say 73 to everybody, and we will talk to you next week.